hair is standing on end just thinking about it. My hair is standing on end just thinking about it. My hair is standing on end just thinking about it. My hair is standing on end just thinking about it. My hair is standing on end just thinking about it. hair is standing on end just thinking about it.
There she is. Here we are. It's official. We're live from Paris. At least one of us is. World's greatest live stream show is back again every day of the Paralympics. We did it every day of the Olympics. I'll give you a little bit of who I am, what I do, and then I'm tossing it over to our special guest. I'm Bob Ciosic. I am the founder and CEO of World's Greatest. We make content with amazing Olympic and Paralympic athletes, distribute that content to a lot of different platforms. Big shout out, by the way, up front to Vizio. They're a platform. If you have a Vizio TV, you can see all of our content there. We're also on these days Prime Video, Apple TV, Curiosity Stream, and I'm tossing it over to our special guest. Who are you and what do you do?
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Jaleen Roberts, and I am a Paralympic track and field athlete.
So, Jaleen, we got to come in hot on these shows because we all know in digital and social media, if you don't start up front quick, nobody's tuning in. So, we just got to come in hard and hot on these shows. The straight off of a silver medal. So, all right, give us that vibe, give us that feeling of what this last kind of 24 hours or so has been like for you.
Yeah, so going into it, I was super confident and excited. Having just ran my 200-meter race, having that be my first 200-meter race of the season because of some injuries and unforeseen circumstances. And I just produced a time that I was really pleased with. Although there was no medal from that, it allowed me to gain some confidence going into my long jump. And then also just knowing that we had a French athlete in my long jump pool, I just knew that the crowd was going to be crazy. And it was just that and more when we got out there. So not only for her jumps, but for everybody's jump, the crowd was just going crazy and you can almost feel the vibration of the stadium. So that was really cool. And then, yeah, it was just such a big contrast from Tokyo with no spectators. Cause we went from nothing and I was just talking to somebody about this. In Tokyo, you kind of had to get yourself and you kind of had to trick yourself psychologically, and kind of keep reminding yourself over and over again of how big of an event you were at, like the caliber of the event, because it felt like it wasn't that big of an event because there were no spectators around you. Whereas this one, it's like the French do a very great job at not letting you forget what kind of stage you're on. And so, yeah, getting the silver medal and having my mom and partner being there just to witness it, that was also just an electrifying moment in itself. Because if you asked me 4 years ago, I probably would have said that my mom probably isn't going to come, but we were able to piece everything together, and yeah, she was able to watch me front row.
Amazing. All right, so you just said like 20 things, and I'm like, okay, I got to talk about that, and that. Wait a minute. Who starts their season in an event at the Paralympics? Like, wait, let's go back to the 200 for a second. That's what you said. The 200 was your first of the season.
Yeah, so I ran it one time in an indoor meet, like preseason, and shortly after that indoor meet was when my coach, myself, and my medical team decided to kind of slow the rehab process. I had a small navicular stress reaction in my left ankle, and we were trying to train through it, but it was just becoming more difficult, and the I guess the healing process was taking a long time because I was still training on it while I'm trying to rehab it. So we just had a conversation and decided that it would just be best to just take a step back and then do cross training. So do training in the pool or training on the bike where I'm not constantly making impact on my foot. And yeah, so we just decided to do that. And just in order to stay on the safe side, all of the track meets that I did do, I either just did the long jump or the 100 just to minimize the impact of that ankle, especially running the curve and how that kind of works. And so yeah, I mean, I definitely had the training under my belt for a good 150 for a good part of that race. And me and my coach kind of had an understanding that we were leaning on some adrenaline for some of that race just because of the circumstances, which was fine. I really do feel great walking away from that. I know I've got a lot of text messages like, hey, how are you feeling? I don't know how to come to you, or like, I know that you're probably not feeling too great, but no, I actually walked away from it feeling really good. I didn't get a medal, but I feel like sometimes it's not always necessarily about that, as long as you're, meeting your own personal goals or getting a result that
Well,
you are happy with.
that's huge. That's just huge, though. I mean, literally nobody. This reminds me of Ryan Krauser. So Ryan Krauser's first outdoor meet that he really threw at was
Yeah.
Olympic trials.
Hmm.
So like this is similar.
Yeah.
like,
I
like
didn't
that
know that.
is
Yeah.
that's crazy. Yeah, I mean he ended up having some back issues, some elbow
Yeah.
issues, and we kind of everybody kept it quiet. And
Hmm.
but yeah, that was his first throw. So you just pulled off the same thing basically at the Paralympics.
Yeah.
So I want to flip over. There's so many questions to get through that we'll see how far that we want to stay in the chat, just me and you.
All
If you
right.
gotta jump, that's cool.
Okay.
But the hour goes fast. I'm just going to tell you.
Okay.
So I want to go to the emotional side first. Having your partner there and
Hmm.
having your mom there.
Hmm.
Let's go to the emotional side of that for a minute. And I know you still have. Do you still have an event or two left?
Yeah, so tomorrow evening at, well, I know 9:40 Paris time, 9:42 Paris time is my preliminary, and then the following day in the morning on the 5th at 11:01 Paris time is my 100-meter final, and then that's a wrap for me.
Right. So while you still have work to do, talk a little bit about having your partner there, having your mom there, and that support system, and emotionally what that means, and how that then translates into great performances like you've already done.
Yeah, so like I said before, if you asked me like 4 years ago, right after Tokyo, like, oh, is your mom gonna go to Paris? I would have probably been like, I don't know. Um, just because of, financial situations and circumstances. I have a younger sibling too, that luckily had some people to stay with while my mom was here. But yeah, no, we still weren't sure, probably up until like the beginning of this year, that my mother was going. And she actually just got her passport, just got the flight. I booked the Airbnb for them to stay in, and that was all. My mom, my mom didn't believe she was coming until basically she was here because she had got her passport. Um, and she had never
That's so
traveled.
funny.
She's never traveled outside of the U.S. and has barely traveled within the U.S. So like not a lot of traveling. Just really, she's been within the state that she grew up in, which is Washington State. Um, and then
Pretty cool first overseas
I
trip.
didn't know that my partner was planning on coming until yeah, and it's a big deal, So and then I didn't know that my partner was even interested in coming until I was at the Team USA summit in April, and somebody had asked them if they're going to come, and they were like, if it works out, I would love to come, of course. So yeah, so not super last minute, but um, I feel
Hey,
like it was.
Jaleen,
later than
the
most
Wi-Fi
people
seems a little bit.
kind of plan and get arrangements together. We were able to do that, and then yeah,
I
I
think we're
rose for
getting a
my
little laggy on the
long jump because
Wi-Fi.
that's my favorite event to do, um, and it's one that takes the longest. So instead of them getting to watch me compete for 27 seconds or 13 seconds, and they get to watch a longer kind of event. So that was also really nice. My Wi-Fi looks like, sorry, my Wi-Fi looks like,
How's yours is looking good? I don't know. Mine's looking good on this side. I don't, am I choppy to you? Can you hear me okay or not so much? Maybe we should try. You want to try jumping out and jumping back in? See if that fixes it.
can you hear me?
Yeah, you're just a little jittery, a little choppy. It's the old tech issues. Jump out, jump in, get closer to the router. We don't know. Plug in straight to the router. All those fun things. I think my Wi-Fi is fine. It's showing all my bars. I'm in the same spot as normal. You know, this is what happens. Dialing in from Paris. So again, Jaleen Roberts, she's live from Paris right now and has already won a silver medal in the long jump. And crazily, her first outdoor event in the 200 was at the Paralympics, which is an amazing feat, actually. So that was pretty cool. And Jaleen runs again in the 100. It sounded like tomorrow were the prelims, and then the following day, I believe, are the finals. So Jaleen competes in three different events: the 100, the 200, the long jump. Uh, there is no heptathlon in the Paralympics, so a lot of these athletes in track and field, who are amazing elite athletes, will compete in multiple events. Like Jaleen's doing. We're going to try it again. Let's pop Jaleen on now. See what happens. All
Okay,
right, we're
that
back.
might work better.
I'm
Hopefully,
hoping.
fingers.
So far, you're sounding good.
Okay.
All right. So I'm getting in right into another. I was trying to do like filler talk, which I think worked for that 45
It was
seconds.
good. It was good.
It was some good filler talk. The I'm gonna give you. I'm gonna like we'll speed round some stuff. So in case things go wonky, we've packed some stuff in. All right.
Okay.
So I'm getting out my stopwatch.
All right.
I don't know if you've seen this little segment that we do, but let's see. I believe Beatrice, she had a pretty solid time in this. But Rose
Okay.
Hollerman, at the moment, Rose Hollerman, the wheelchair basketball player, Rose has our number one time. So
Oh.
the idea is how close can you get to 60 seconds without going over? We did have one athlete that went over by like a second and a half. So we're going to have to go to judges on that if it's going over or staying under. But the attempt is stay under, give me your life story in 60 seconds. Ready? Go.
All right. I was born with a disability called cerebral palsy, which affects my muscle strength and coordination. I was raised by a single mother of four and was in sports my whole life. Fast forward to high school, track and field, I met my Paralympic coach and initially hesitant to join. I got involved in it and went on to compete at my international debut in 2017. After that, I moved over to the other side of Washington State and got my degree in health and physical education at Eastern Washington University. And once I graduated from there, I ended up moving down to Chula Vista, where I started training for 2024 Paris. And now I'm currently in Paris getting ready for a 100 meter.
All right, you want to see the score?
Yes. Go.
That's a solid score. That's a solid score.
Okay. It's not
Because
bad. It's not bad. I was hoping for the 50s, but it's all
no,
right.
I know I was hoping for the 50s for you too, but hey, you weren't prepared at all. Chase Jackson, she had a second attempt and still finished worse than you in this. So Chase has gone way over and way under.
All right. All
She has
right.
the record for going over and under. So, you know, I think it was Beatrice that she went so low that I gave her like, and you can add more to it. And then she was like a solid 53.
Okay.
Speaking of
50s is good.
speaking of you
50s is
two though,
good.
53 is good. Speaking of you two though, the video that you did with Beatrice in all the bottles and you're walking out of the store and you're like, "Oh, I forgot the can opener or the bottle opener." That's like one of the funniest TikToks I've seen.
Oh my gosh, yeah, because it was such a big thing. I remember when she got the leg with the bottle opener, it was like this huge thing, and then I always tell her like to just keep it on hand because it's like who would think of that? Nobody. Who has that? Probably not a
Nobody.
lot of.
I thought it was a joke. I had to ask Beatrice. I'm like, "Is it just a little piece of metal that you do that on, or is it actually real?" And she's like, "No, I had him build it in." She's like, "If I'm gonna have a disability, might as well have fun with it."
Yep, yeah, she
It
did. She asked her her prosthetist to build it in there.
That's genius, and I think we should attempt to like make a lot out of it so we get sponsors like Coca-Cola. They have bottles. They have a few bottles that we could open.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, no, seriously,
I mean,
I think so.
Beatrice did mention Michelob Ultra. Hey,
Yeah, that's a good one because it's already a Team USA sponsor. So there you
exactly.
go.
You're opening bottles. We could open more bottles. Let's do it. What are we waiting for? So, talk to me a little bit. So, you're with Coach Mac now. Talk to me
Mhm.
a little bit about how that training group operates, and tell us, like, as fans. I don't think fans really understand. Like, it's like, oh, it's Team USA. You're all together. You're doing all. No, no. It's Jaleen's an athlete, and she's training, and Jaleen might go to a training group
Yeah.
like the one at Chula Vista. Talk about that group and how you guys kind of operate and what your kind of day to day is like.
Yeah, so when I first joined the group, it was just the only para athletes in the group were Beatrice and I. And before I came, she was the only para athlete. And then just recently, in the past like year and a half, we've added everybody else that we have to our group, which I really like. I think it's like a perfect size. There's not too many people where he's not able to, like disperse his time and attention to everybody, but there's not only two athletes where like we don't have like a like solid group of people that we can like be close to and help us and encourage each other and all that. Um, but yeah, no. So every day, basically, um, wake up. Everyone kind of eats breakfast on their own. Some people eat at their house. Some people go to the center and the cafeteria. We go down to the track. We do our track training from about the time fluctuates, but anywhere from like 10 to 1. And then we go up and usually eat. Most of us go up and eat. Some people like to lift first, but I have a small breakfast because I don't like training on a full stomach or nowhere near that. So I have a very small breakfast. So after I'm done at the track, I go eat in the cafeteria at the training center. And then once that's done, at around 1, I go to lift with Goose, who is my strength coach, Gustavo. Um, do a lift there, and we have 3 different lifts each week. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then yeah, after I lift, I go to the sports med clinic where I do ice or heat, or I love the sauna. We just got a sauna recently, within the past like 6 months, maybe even sooner, or massage or whatever I need to deal with. And then yeah, at the end of that day, by the end of the day, it's like 3 o'clock. So I'm like, yeah, it's pretty much a full time job.
Yeah. No, we all thought, done with Tokyo Paralympics, you just kind of sit around. Maybe you pick up the training like a few weeks
Hmm.
before Paris.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's how it goes. You
yeah,
probably have aunts and uncles and cousins who are like, "That's how it goes, isn't it, Jaleen?"
yeah. I know. I don't even know if people really like. I do. If people ask me what, like, a lot of people ask me how often do you train,
Yeah.
and then I'll explain it. But yeah, I don't really think that a lot of people understand the extent or really like what a typical training week looks like. Uh,
And that you compete often. That's the other part of it.
yeah, yeah,
'Cause-
for sure. Yeah, and a norm. I will say this season has been a pretty unconventional one for me, but yes, like any normal season, yeah, we compete pretty often. And our coach gives us some like rest weeks because that's also important. If you're just like competing week after week after week after week, like that can become mentally and physically exhausting and taxing. But yeah, like in season, most weekends we're at some kind of meet, whether it's just like a small city meet, or like one of the bigger ones that's like Mount Sac and things like that. But yeah, no, once we're in like the thick of the season, and then a lot of max able-bodied athletes and his pair athletes actually have done some this year too. Started doing some indoor meets to get some comps under our belt earlier in the season. But yeah, no, but I feel like it's a good like nervous system activation because you need meats to replicate all the feelings of a meat. So like it's like yes, I could be doing all of these like phenomenal huge jumps in practice, or running really fast reps, but then there's that whole other component of a track meet where you have like the nerves, you have the spectators, you have the like, are you like, maybe you don't always sleep the best before meets, or you sleep really well before meets, like hydration levels. So it's like those kind of simulations consistently are important just so that your body knows what to do.
So, I mean, that's a great peek inside all of that. I've learned so much just in these kind of 6 shows already, and but talk to us a little bit about the classification systems and how that works, specifically in your events. Let's just kind of contain it to that for a minute, and how the athletes get classified in different ways.
Yeah, so for my specific disability, cerebral palsy, our number is 30. So 30, I believe it's 33 to 38. So the lower the number, 33, the more severe your disability is, and the higher the number, so 38, is the least severe of cerebral palsy. So my specific classification is a 37, and 37s have what's called hemiparesis. So basically, if you're looking at a human body, the anatomy, and you just draw a line straight down the middle from head to toe, one side of the body, both foot, leg, arm, and hand, are all affected. And so it causes impairments in muscle strength and coordination. So, along with things like balance, agility, all the things that play into that. Um, and so, I am mildly affected. I am one underneath a 38. And yeah, I was born with my disability, and they diagnosed me pretty instantaneously. And then when my mom started watching me walk, I actually have videos of me walking. And it's actually in a short film that recently came out. But yeah, you can kind of tell when I'm younger, and it's definitely worse when I was younger, because not only am I dealing with the challenges of CP, but then also just the typical motor skills that babies are having to learn. So then, as I got older and I got better with those fine motor skills, I still had the CP, but those ones got better. So then, it's a little more invisible these days, which is conversations that I'm starting to have with just like my social media in general, because to the naked eye, if I'm just standing still in front of you, you're probably not going to be able to tell that anything is wrong with me until I'm moving about or until I'm fatigued, because that's the other thing with this disability. It does stem neurologically. So at birth, I had a stroke in the right side of my brain, so the left side of my body became affected. So it's opposite, and so most of the time you're only going to see it if you're really paying attention, or if I'm moving and experiencing like higher levels of fatigue.
Yeah, we had Ryan Medrano on yesterday, and his is the right side of his body, and we talked a lot about kind of what that looks like and how that kind of manifests, right? And but the interesting thing is, you as an athlete is part of your job. I mean, it's not necessarily part of it. You're inherently going to fatigue your body. That's what you're doing as an
Yeah,
athlete, to push to attain these other levels. So
right.
tell us a little bit about, like, okay, I'm an athlete. I'm an elite athlete, right?
Hmm.
There's only right now one person better than you in the long jump. You're the second best in the world.
Yeah.
Um, how do you have to deal with that? You have the athletic side of it, and then you have this kind of disability side of what you're dealing with. How does that work as an athlete trying to achieve what you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, I think that it takes definitely a lot of communication. Like you have to be able to learn self advocacy, which like is an important skill to have overall, but especially when you have a disability and you're working with, I mean, most coaches, there are some coaches out there that also have the same disability as their athlete, but most coaches aren't going to, and especially coming into Mac's training group, the only athlete with a disability that he had worked with was B, who is an amputee, which is a lot different than somebody with cerebral palsy, being that it stems from a neurological place. So a lot of it is communicating. And my first coach, David Gregg, he had worked with a lot of athletes with cerebral palsy, and so he became like very familiar over the years on um, fatigue levels, what like a good training
Mm,
cycle looks like, what good distances look like to run in training, volume of training, intensity of training. um, and I think that he did a really good job at kind of having a seamless transition into Mac. So he had a lot of conversations with Mac, gave him a lot of recommendations, um, and Mac came into it like fully embracing it and like willing and ready to learn. And if there's not something that he knows, then he can ask a question. But I also am comfortable letting him know, like, hey, like after maybe it's we're supposed to be doing 10 reps of something, and after 8 I'm like, okay, like I can feel my body like it's hurting or it's like shutting down. It's not moving without rigidity or spasticity anymore. I need to tell him like, hey, like I'm gonna shut it down. I'm like experiencing pain, or that's like it's enough on my body for today. And so and he always respects that, because nobody knows my body better than I know my body. And even
right.
within the cerebral palsy classes, like how I'm feeling might be different than what Ryan is experiencing. um, and so yeah, I think a lot of it is just like being able to speak up when, because you know your body the best, and nobody is going to tell you what you're feeling, and nobody knows what you're feeling unless so a coach might think, okay, like this is a good volume and intensity for this practice or for this part of the season, and you're like, no, I cannot, like my body can't handle that. And I think, yeah, that's the biggest thing, because as much as you might think, or as much as you like, it can be frustrating. You're like, why don't you know this? It's like they don't live with it. It's like they can do so much research, they can do so much reading, they can do so much learning, but they're not actually living with the disability that you have. I
Well,
think
even
that's a big.
yeah, I think that's really insightful, and thank you for sharing. I mean, I think that gives kind of a really interesting insight. So even though there are these classifications, right,
Mm-hmm.
still
Mm-hmm.
within. So you're T 37.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So even within the 37s, it's you're all individuals and you're all experiencing CP in different ways, right?
Right.
And so therefore, adjustments have to be made. Like there's almost like another level of athlete adjustment that has to be made. And as I'm hearing you and some of the other athletes, right? So that becomes both. You're almost like half coach with Coach Mac in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, man, that's hard. Like, it's really about like a full team working together, because then even I'm thinking about now, like in the weight room, like there's definitely a muscle deficiency on my left side, and there's a lot of adaptations that have to be made. And so, luckily, I work with the Goose, and he's very good at that, and he's good at doing it right on the spot. I'm like, my feet are unlevel, and he's like, okay, let me grab this block and put it under there, or
Mm.
oh, like, and so, yeah, as far as like being an athlete, like you have to understand even like the strength aspect of it too. And the thing about Paralympics is everybody, just like anybody is, any able-bodied person or person with disability, like everybody is going to be a little bit different, and that's
Yeah.
the unique and I guess beautiful thing about the Paralympics, is that even though they have done their due diligence and getting people in the respective class against the people with their same exact type of disability, you made a good point of like everybody's still going to be a little bit different. And if it was very if they could, you know put everybody in the with the exact same thing, everybody would be in their own class, thus having no
Yeah.
competition. I
Yes.
mean, like, even if you
Yeah.
thought about it from an amputee standpoint, like, okay, below the knee amputee, you're missing 6.5 inches of your leg.
Right.
Like they can't. Within the Paralympics, there's only so much whittling down they can do to make sure that there's an even playing field. And yeah, I think that's also an important thing. Is like, what aspects do you have control over? Like, that's not one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I live here in New York City. I live in Soho. I'm sitting here. Canal Street is right in front of me, which is one of the busiest streets downtown. I'll see, you know, 200 people within 5 minutes in front of my apartment building, right?
Right.
And the one thing that I think forces that Paralympics and Olympics, because we're bringing in athletes from all over the world, but that Paralympics forces us to see people who are maybe different than us, which I equate to what I love about New York City, which is
Right.
it's a melting pot. And
Yeah.
I do feel like one of the things I'm trying to do with this show is to kind of show and I've been trying to bring in Olympic athletes with Paralympic athletes, right? And today just didn't work out. But
Yeah.
but the how much of that kind of we're all different, but we're all the same in some ways, right? How much of that do you see as kind of a kind of someone that we can look up to uh, in the world of athletics and in the world of like a mental health advocate? Um, Talk
Mhm.
about that a little bit. We're all different, but we're all the same.
Yeah. I guess in comparison to, so do you want more specifics on like Olympic versus Paralympic, or a broad spectrum in general, or
I I,
athlete?
I think go both ways because I think I have a hunch you have interest and knowledge in both.
Okay, yeah. So I would say, as far as like we're all different, but we're all the same. You take, guess it would be interesting to talk about Olympics and Paralympics, right? Paralympics is parallel to the Olympics. So, you put the physical disability to the side, right? And um, I feel like underneath all that, everybody all shares a common goal of, wanting to make it to the Olympics, wanting to make it to the Paralympics, or maybe they're not at that level yet, and maybe they're more in a developmental stage, but they want to make it to the Olympic trials or the Paralympic trials. Um, every athlete has the mental challenges that also come with it, which is why every athlete, on a team has access to a sports psychiatrist, right? Um, we're all going to be victims of fighting with this thing that's in between our two ears and trying to make it our friend instead of our enemy. And that's not only with athletes, but that's with anybody. And you know, for us, it might just be in regard to sport, but it can really be anything for anybody. And I think that um, that's important. I think another thing too is like we all have the commonality of having our identity so wrapped up in being an athlete, and so that's also something that is very important to be mindful of, because at the end of the day, whether you're an Olympian or a Paralympian, you're not going to be able to be an athlete forever. That's just the reality of it. Our bodies don't really work that way, and I think that, you know, with that, it's important for everybody to have and um, to really explore their own interests and hobbies outside of sport, with that. And so I think that there's a lot less differences than people think. And I think those differences are just the very apparent one of they are called Olympians, we are Paralympians, and that we have disabilities and they don't. But really, I mean, outside of that, you know, everything else is really the same. Like we're all athletes with a common goal, no matter what level that goal is at, you know, trials, Paralympic Games, Paralympic medal, Paralympic gold, world record, like whatever it is, everybody still has a common goal and loves competition because that's why we're here, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's so let's pause there for a second because there's so much right in there. So we had Jeremy Campbell on Saturday. He's
Hmm.
a discus thrower. He's a
Yeah.
five-time Olympian,
Yeah.
four-time gold medalist. And
Hmm.
we had kind of paired him with Peyton Otterdahl, who's a shot put. He's an Olympic shot putter. He's a two-time
Hmm.
Olympian, bronze medalist. And but I asked a question of Jeremy. I'm like, 5 times. I'm like, to do the math for everybody, that's 20 years. Okay.
Yeah, a long time.
It really is.
I think he's at 21 now. We just talked actually the other day.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
crazy, right? I mean, that's an insane amount of time to think about. And I'm like, where does
Yeah.
that passion and drive come from to keep doing it? He goes, first of all, I was a different person each time. Right. So
Mm.
that was kind of interesting to hear. But
Yeah.
ultimately, he's like, this last Olympics, I really was much more kind of mindful. I spent a lot of time on kind of my mental health, um, and then he's like, to boil it all down is I know I have a bigger throw in me. So he's like, it really
Right.
simplified it. I have a bigger
Yeah.
throw in me, and I want to get that
Yeah.
throw. So
Yep.
I want you to talk a little bit about the idea of chasing that next goal versus being satisfied and content with where you are. Because when I talked to Peyton Otterdahl, on one hand, he's been in the position where he knocked someone out to get that bronze, and
Yeah.
in this last Olympics, he got
Mhm.
knocked out of the bronze position by Joe Kovacs when he had the big throw at the end. So
Yeah.
he's experienced both sides of that. Talk a little bit about that idea of contentment and how to deal with that while still pushing to chase the next thing.
Yeah. This is another one that I talk a lot about, particularly with athletes. But so a couple nights ago, I got sober in long jump to my Chinese competitor Win, who her and I go way back since 2017, which was my international debut. And since then, um, I have she has always been the only one to beat me. And uh, that in itself is, you know, that in itself is challenging, and it's a big mental struggle that I actually talk to my therapist about a lot of times, because um, whereas whereas for me, yes, I am super ecstatic that I get a silver medal, because anything can happen at any time and somebody can come out of the woodworks, and you don't know if, you know, there's injuries that happen, sicknesses that, like, there's so many different factors. So of course, eternally grateful for, you know, any medal that I win. The part that sometimes people don't understand unless they kind of have been in the athlete position, um, is that like I'm still working and going for gold against the same competitor, you know? And so like to see silver after silver, it almost in a way like I have to work extra hard to get myself out of complacency of like I'm on the silver shelf, like this is the medal that I'm gonna go to worlds and the games and get, and like that's, you know, like so I think it's like, and there's still a lot of work to be done just as on the mental side as far as like complacency, and I talked to my counselor about it, like getting myself out of this silver medal mindset because like I know that I can be greater than that. And the other thing that people don't realize is last year at World Championships in Paris, I actually beat her, but there was another girl in my class who got bumped up this year to a 38. Um, so even though I still got a silver medal, I beat the Chinese girl. I was just behind another athlete um, who had won that race, who is now at 38. But yeah, so that in itself was like a big confidence booster as well because like I'm like I proved to myself then in Paris like I have the capability to beat this athlete. You know, um, I talked to a gal when I was going through the media section after long jump in. She said, "Yeah, how do you feel about Win? She seems to be pretty unbeatable." And I'm like, "Well, she has been, but like she's not in every event, not in every case, you know." So I think that's what I'm looking forward to most for LA is just like working with my sports psych plus the physical training of it, and you know, um, and being injury free and being able to like push my body to different limits than I was able to this season. Like I think it'll all come together nicely. But yeah, for me, it's just I just keep going because I know that unlike people think like this is a beatable person, anybody is beatable because anything can happen on any given day. And with that also, I've always said like my biggest competitor is myself. So
Yeah.
so it might look like I'm upset that I got a silver, but really I'm like, oh dang, I've had a way better long jump series than that, or I've ran a way faster time than that. Like um, it's not always about the feeling of whatever medal you get because that's always exciting. It's for me sometimes it's like how do I feel about how I competed against myself and other results that I've produced in the past. And that's really what I look at because at the end of the day, I can't control my competitors, can't control the weather, can't control the wind, you know, but I can control what I've done and what I'm going to do. So,
That that's kind of an amazing answer, but it's leading me right into my next question of I ask this all the time. So I name the company World's Greatest,
uh-huh.
not as a destination, but as
Yeah.
as a journey. You know,
Okay.
the idea
Yeah.
was I wanted to work with athletes who are striving, working, looking to be the greatest. Right? Sometimes it's gold medalists like Ryan Krauser.
Mm.
Sometimes it's Wellington Zaza, who hasn't won any medals from Liberia, and he's a super competitive dude that's striving and always working in a fun guy in content as well.
Yeah.
Um, but let me ask you the question: what does it take to be the greatest?
Well, first of all, you have to really get rid of self doubt. Like if you have any self doubt, I feel like that's going to be the most detrimental thing. Like you have to believe that you can do it, and it's fine if there's you know 100 people, 1,000 people, 1,000,000 people that believe that you can do it. If you don't believe that you are capable of something, then you're not going to be able to do it. I think that's the biggest thing. And I remember I was with that in I think it was 2000. I think it was 2017 or 2019. I was getting ready for a competition. I was just not like I was practicing block starts and just did not feel like it was coming together. And I was kind of freaking out because I have this big race coming up and like I can't get my start together. I don't know what's going on. And my one of my teammates, a guide runner, Jerome Avery's very very close to him. He came up to me and he told me something that I literally love, and I share it with most people I know. But he told me, "What got you here will keep you here." So,
So cool.
um, you know, this what all I've done that got me to this moment, all the hard work I've put in, all the track sessions, all of the weight sessions, all of the physical therapy sessions and the mental therapy sessions. Like all of that got me to this moment, and it's going to keep me here because now, like that's what I've prepared for. So, yeah, it takes a lot of confidence and just throwing out any sort of self doubt that you have and that you're carrying.
Yeah, that's I think such a cool like pithy little phrase, right? What got you here will keep you here. I like that. The talk about your feeling between like we used to name this show. I just decided to name it World's Greatest Live Stream, but we used to call it What Were You Thinking? So if you look at past episodes on our YouTube channel, so it was What Were You Thinking, and we had two areas we wanted to go into. What were you thinking when you did something really stupid or funny or ridiculous or whatever? And what were you thinking in a certain moment? And I usually have athletes ask athletes the question, but there's no other athlete here but you. So so I'm asking the question. Um, I want to hear about what were you thinking when you made the first Paralympic team, and then what were you thinking when you were standing on? Well, actually, when you knew you got that silver in the long jump. Talk about those two thoughts and how they
So
were.
when I made my first Paralympic team,
Yeah, when you made your first one, and maybe similarities and differences. You know.
um, yeah, I think when I made my first Paralympic team, I was thinking to myself, aren't you glad that you took a chance? Because really, I just never, like, the amount of hesitation and reservation that I held when I first learned about the Paralympics and got introduced to my coach, like, I would never thought that that was where I was going to be in 4 years. I was totally adverse and didn't want anything to do with it, and grew up competing against able-bodied athletes. Um, and it wasn't until, I stepped out of my comfort zone and moved across the state and got like immediately immersed with this community that I had never known previously, and just took a chance on everything. And then, yeah, and then fast forward 4 years later, it got me, to qualify for my first Paralympic Games. So I think that's what I was thinking. Just
That's pretty
glad.
cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool though. Like you, a getting out of your comfort zone, and b because you just kind of assume, oh, all these athletes are kind of this world, and you're saying no, I wasn't at all. This was like something completely foreign. I'm competing
Yeah.
against able-bodied athletes in all the events and sports that I do. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool to hear.
Yeah. Um,
So tell us
and
about tell us about. When did you know, by the way, that you're on the medal stand? How did that go down?
you're
Was it
talking
in
about just a couple days ago?
yeah, a couple days ago?
Yeah.
Not
So,
to not to kind of shove to the side the first silver,
no, it's
but
okay.
we're gonna do it now that you're a multi medalist. You know.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure. Um, so the way that it works is, I think it's when we first go into the event, you're in random order, and then when after your first three jumps, they order you from um, the first girl that goes is the girl who has jumped the least distance, and then the last girl is the one who has jumped the furthest. So I knew that my first jump was my best jump, and it definitely was not my greatest jump series by any means. And so the order, basically the whole competition was the Chinese athlete was first. I was sitting in second, and then the French athlete, one of the French athletes, was sitting in third, and she was creeping on some very very close distances to me, and it was scaring the crap out of me, and I was just could not. I was talking to my coach, and this jump, this was very technically good, and then the next jump, that wasn't technically good, but something else was technically good, and it just like it felt like I just couldn't put everything all together in one jump. um but yeah, it was after, in the last round, she had her final jump before me, because I was sitting in second, she was in third, and then the final jumper was a Chinese girl who was sitting in first. So I knew that I had got silver after she did her last jump, and it wasn't as far as any of my jumps, but yeah, it's just always so exciting. And It's the same. It's the same. We did the same thing in Paris last year, and it was at the French girls' home stadium. And so again, like the energy is just electric. So it's like no matter how I'm, feeling about how I actually jumped, not the medal. It's like it's still you can't not be happy. You can't not be grateful. You can't not feel all these positive feelings because there's this whole crowd that's just looking at you and has witnessed you do something that not a lot of people in the world get to do. And then I feel like me and the girls in my classification also have like pretty good relationships. So we just all, I know there was a girl who was pretty upset with her performance, and myself and the French girl went up to her, and congratulated her. And then we brought all the girls out in front of the crowd to do like a little bow. So yeah, I feel like that
Oh,
we have
that's
a really
cool.
good camaraderie. And, after, of course, you're there to compete and everyone's competitors, but after the fact, one thing about me and the girls in my class, like we're always going to have a good time and share a laugh. So that's always nice because I know that that's not that's not for everybody, but it
Yeah.
makes the experience more fun for me because at the end of the day, it's not that serious, and there's so many more reasons that I compete in Paralympic track and field than a medal. So
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, where's your medal right now?
right now, it's in my. I can't tell you. Everyone's
Don't
gonna know.
don't tell me. But it's
Right
but
now,
it,
no, it's in my backpack. I went to the Team USA house yesterday for like all my media
yeah.
things, and so right now, yeah, I have it on me. But when I go home, I put it in this gold box in my closet, way up
Oh,
high.
that's so cool. That's so
Yeah,
cool. By the way, I do think the media house, the Team USA Media House, is doing a good job with you guys getting out content quickly. A lot of times
yeah,
that's the issue for you athletes. It's like, yeah, people
yeah.
shot a bunch of stuff, but it's like, we need to push it out into the world.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. No, it's great. It's great, and that's the other thing too. Is like we didn't have anything like that in Tokyo. It really feels like my first game all over again. And I think that's like the biggest thing.
Oh,
Like
that's
it
interesting.
feels like this is my first games because that was such an unconventional games that also that one's unique because nobody will ever, I mean, unless there's God forbid another pandemic of some sort, like, but we will never experience a game like that again.
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
but yeah, this one's completely different.
Yeah, I mean it. Yeah, it had to be just incredibly different. I just remember too. We ended up shooting through the pandemic and like we put on a pole vault competition in Sandy Morris's backyard with 13 of the best female pole vaulters. We aired that on ESPN's YouTube channel. But it was like weird stuff like that. Luckily, nobody got sick. We actually had fans there, but we had them like in little chalked circles, and it only could be them with their families. It was crazy. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, much more extreme for the Olympics than that.
Yeah.
So having people around is a good thing. Hey, let's keep people around. That's the theme I think that we're
Yeah.
touching.
No, seriously.
People are
Ser-
good. Let's keep them around. You know,
yeah.
I would love to do. We should do a follow up after all this, like with you and Beatrice, and we should do like three or four of you guys together. That would be really fun. Kind of
Oh yeah.
post all of this because we're gonna continue our live stream show for sure. Probably drop it down to like a weekly show. Um,
Uh-huh.
the daily shows are fun, but it's a lot of work. But
Oh yeah, for
um,
sure.
and for you guys, it's so much more difficult too because you're doing all sorts of other things. By the way, you're prepping for another competition. So,
Yes, I am. Yep. I
so,
actually just had my very, very last training session of this season.
so that's kind of cool though to think about it that way.
Yeah.
Are the prelims tomorrow?
Yeah, prelims are tomorrow in the evening at 9:42, and then the following day go home, get some rest, and the following day the finals are at 11 a.m.
11, 18. Okay. All right. So, and I mean, we've been catching it all on Peacock. I think everything that's, is there anywhere else that we can find it, or is it pretty much
I
Peacock?
did I did hear that it was on YouTube, but
That's what I
I
heard, but I
yeah,
haven't explored it.
yes. So I don't know if it's on the Paralympic YouTube channel. I'm not sure. I just usually everyone that I know back home watches it on Peacock. I think it's just um they have like all those like cool features now. Like it's just easy to navigate. You just go there. There's a whole Paralympic tab. You can just click on whatever sport. So that's what I have.
Exactly. I mean, to me, the biggest thing of everything that we're doing is my whole premise is it's so much more fun to watch the events when you know the athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100%
It's,
agree.
I
Yeah.
mean, we're
Yeah.
sitting here cheering for you because we knew you were on the show. It
Yeah.
makes
No,
it
I
better.
agree. Yeah. No, it's way better because you can like actually put a face to a name to a personality to a story. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a lot more fun.
It's so much better. It gets worse the more we get to know you guys though, because then it's almost like we can barely watch. Oh my god, it gets so bad. Like, whether it's Krauser or Devin Allen or I don't know, but somehow be like we're down to our last four. I mean, Jaleen, we're down to our last 4 minutes. I don't know how it went by so quickly. Maybe the glitch helped. I don't know.
Maybe you did a
We
good
got
filler.
I did a little filler, and we got through it. You got back, you right in there, fixed the Wi-Fi. You were doing a little tech work back there in Paris. So usually, Jaylene, we end the show by doing some shout outs. I'll let you do your shout outs first. You can shout out people, brands, organizations, coaches, whoever you want, pets, brands that you want to go after.
Okay. All right. Well, shout out to my mom for the birthing.
Nice work.
No, but seriously, no, for
Shout
just
out for
all.
you for coming out too. That was a good one. Good decision.
um, yeah, no, just like all of the just empowerment. You know, I know that a lot of people like their families or their parents when they find out they're going to have a kid with a disability. It's more of like a very scary thing, and that's how they approach it with a lot of caution and things like that. My mom just kind of, it's like throwing a kid in a swimming pool and they'll learn how to swim. Um, So yeah, definitely my mom. I'll say Parasport Spokane. So my former Paralympic coach, David Gregg, him and his wife are the founders of the adaptive sports team out in Spokane, Washington, and that's how I got involved in the sport as a whole. And yeah, he came all the way from Spokane to Seattle with his track team. To for them to compete and for him to watch me compete and helped me with all the extensive paperwork and classification, and I trained with him for multiple years. And yeah, and then Coach Mack, of course, when I moved to Chula, just a extremely technically sound coach, and um, always willing to learn about different disabilities because now he's getting to a point where he's worked with quite a few different ones, even if they're not in his training group. um, my partner, it's like support system and a therapist outside of a therapist and somebody who like super comfortable like talking anything about. And then with that, my sports therapist Jamie, she's literally the best. I just talked to her about something like 10 minutes before I was warming up for my long jump. Like, it's just like always readily available whenever. Like, I can shoot her a text, she'll respond. All my family and friends back home watching that are planning to come to LA, I think that'd be super fun that they're all watching me right now on TV, but then they'll get to see me live in person in LA. So and I'm sure that there is, a ton more. I work with Sisters in Sports, who was founded by Danielle Olmstead, which is just a group of female athletes with disabilities involved in the Paralympics. So that's also a good support system and provides athletes with a lot of different resources. And um, there's a film that's just released. It's on my Instagram. It's called Out of the Dark. I don't know if you've seen it, but
I
it's
have,
a
yeah.
yeah,
It's
10-minute short
fantastic.
film.
Yeah.
So Sarah, all the other producers of that, and people promoting that. That's super exciting, and hopefully I'll get to go to some film festival. So yeah,
That's awesome. No, that was a very thorough shout out list and thoughtful as well. You might be
try,
you might be
try.
top of the podium on the shout outs. That could be We went through a list of other brands that we were going after with a lot of other athletes. We're like, oh, we need to get Rose Hollerman's like, I love to crochet. We need to get some yarn. Like, all right, let's do it. Let's go. So my first shout out is to you. Big shout out to Jaleen Roberts for being on the show, for being an awesome person, an amazing athlete, and entertaining us as a viewer, just to simply have fun watching amazing athletics. So big shout out to you. Oh, and your mom, because without her, none of this could even be possible.
None of it at all.
So if you want to follow World's Greatest, all that little ticker down below in the screen, that's where you can follow it. By the way, if you're watching the show live, you can click into those banners. It'll pop up on a new tab, and you can go watch stuff later. But obviously, all of our stuff is on our YouTube channel. Big shout out to Vizio. Like I said earlier in the show, you can find pretty much all of our content on Vizio if you have a Vizio Smart TV. They're one of the kind of sponsors of this show. The big shout out to Curiosity Stream that's helping us get into, which you now can find us on Apple TV and Prime Video. And big shout out to Hospital for Special Surgery, HSS, who was a sponsor of our Science of Movement show. So big shout out there. That's a great show. If you haven't seen it, Jaleen, you should check it out. We have 10 different episodes, each featuring one athlete in a different event in sport. That's an Olympic sport. So 5 are track and field, 5 are not track and field, and hoping to expand this into the Paralympics as well, because all the knowledge that I'm getting already from you guys is that could be a really cool kind of almost parallel episodes to some of the episodes that we've already done. Yeah. I mean, I think again, the way that you guys move is sometimes the same and sometimes very different. So I think those could be really intriguing shows and helpful, because all of our content, really what we're trying to do is help make you guys household names by the time we get to the Olympics and Paralympics. And while you're watching, we kind of have companion programming to help you better understand what you're about to watch or what you just watched. So that's kind of the goal. We struggle with the ending of our show, Jaleen. It's like, Devin Allen's always like, we don't know how to end the show. How are we going to end? If you have any great idea on how to do it, I'm just going to turn it over to you, and we'll go from
The end. You need a cool outro,
I know, yes. We kind of did it with, so we had the breakdancing guys on, and they did like a little beatbox thing and rap thing. Wow. But it was pretty good. No offense, Quick Step. It was pretty good, but I think we can do better.
Well, I will definitely. I'm gonna think about that. I'm gonna definitely think about that.
Think about that one, because you could be our outro.
If I come up with something really good, I need the credit for it.
Hey, it's got to be sponsorable. That's what we need. And this outro is sponsored by blank.
Nice. Okay, I'm gonna go to the drawing board right now.
Go to the drawing board. We have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We have 5 days left. And I know you have a little bit on your plate right now, but I don't know. You're a creative person. You can come up with something.
I can do it.
Thank you, Jaleen. Do it. I love it. That's what you need at this point. More assignments.
Well, after track, I need to turn my attention somewhere.
Yeah, there you go. The outro. That could be the final. Maybe it's just for the last day. We reveal it.
Ooh.
Because then your competitions are over, and then you can really focus.
Yep, that's
because you'll have nothing else to do.
No, not at all.
No, nothing.
I'll be sitting down eating spicy chips.
Yeah. I like that. I wasn't going to guess that. I thought you were going to say steak frite or something like that.
No, just spicy chips.
Just spicy chips out there picnic bench between the buildings at the Olympic.
Exactly.
All right, Jaleen, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. Great
Yes.
job. And good luck in the 100. We'll all be watching.
All right. Thank you for having me. Have
All
a
right.
great night.
See ya.
All right. Bye.